Tag TV, and Tag Radio, rapidly becoming the leading technology new media in all of Georgia and the Southeast. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by Integrated Learning Services, integratedlearningservices.com. Wait, worry, or take control. At integratedlearningservices.com, increase sales, productivity, and client retention. Lower training costs. integratedlearningservices.com. When it began, it really wasn't much more than a what-if idea, but it soon turned into a fast-track industry technology leader. The combined company manages over 2,500 productions of high school events, and that was in 2009 alone. This year, it projects to exceed 5,000 events. It has existing relationships with Comcast Charter Cable, Time Warner Cable, and Fox Sports, among others. The combination of assets now creates the premier high school sports network and leader in producing, distributing, and monetizing video content in the high school category. This merger brings the current partnership agreements with high school athletic associations to span Georgia to South Carolina, Missouri, Illinois, Oregon, Wisconsin, and even Michigan, with additional state partnerships to be announced soon. And that's only the original company's first 2 years of operation. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, August 17, 2010, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mandela. What was a mere concept born in 2005 when then Turner Broadcasting exec David Rudolph wanted to watch a game that wasn't going to be televised has now led to one of Atlanta's fastest-growing digital media companies and a technology leading industry provider in the production, distribution, and monetization of professional quality, low-cost video content. PlayON Sports. David purchased the assets of PlayON from Turner Broadcasting in December 2008. A former senior VP, strategy and new products for Turner, he directed a team charged with working across TBS's divisions to identify market concepts and develop internal new ideas. Prior to TBS, David was a VP general manager at Turner South, where he was responsible for all day-to-day operations. David wrote the business plan for what became the first regional entertainment basic cable service in television history. Digital media in high school sports, mergers and fast-track funding, and a future targeting all 50 states, as Tino speaks with President and CEO David Rudolph of Atlanta-based fast-track startup PlayON Sports.
David, thank you for joining me on Tech Talk today.
My pleasure.
So some of our listeners may not know about PlayON Sports, so talk about the company and the mission of the company and where you guys are headed.
Certainly. We've got a very simple mission in that it's our goal to be the leader in producing and distributing video content in the high school category, specifically focusing on high school sports. And the way we do it is through a two-pronged approach. The first is in every state that we operate, we develop an exclusive long-term partnership with that high school association to develop a high school association network. So, for example, here in Georgia, it's called the GHSA network, and that's both a television and an internet network. The second part of our strategy is we utilize that high school association relationship to extend down to the individual member schools of that association our proprietary software and technology platform that allows schools to self-produce their regular season and other school events like graduation or plays or things of that nature.
So I imagine this has had a major influence on sports in various communities and certainly the schools. So talk a little bit about how that's helped the schools and what you're doing for the community.
Yeah, this is high school sports is a growing phenomena, and it's really the last untapped media market in the U.S. We've certainly seen what's happened in professional and the collegiate markets, but that's starting to seep in to the high school space a little bit. And it's like as those other sports develop, the first thing and the benefit people get out of it is the exposure. Everybody wants to see themselves on TV. And high school students and high school athletes are no different. So that's one of the first immediate benefits. And in all the states we work in, they typically would have some of their football and some of their basketball championships that might be available for people to watch. But in very short order after we start working with them, they'll see that grow by an order of magnitude, sometimes 10 to 20 times as much content, especially some of the minor sports that to date and historically have not gotten much coverage. But the second side of that is on the monetary side, because especially with the economy we live in now, we know how tight things are for schools. We are a revenue-generating entity for these schools and for the high school associations, and in many cases we've been able to help them bridge the gap to make sure that funding for athletics programs stays in place, and so that they're not having to cut programs. So those are really the two primary areas that the high school associations and the member schools see benefit from working with us almost straight out of the gate.
Now, how does a school earn revenue through partnership with you guys?
From a school perspective, the primary way they do it is when they produce their events, they control all the advertising inventory within those events that they can offer to sponsors. So instead of just offering a sponsor that they can see someone can see a sign inside a venue a certain number of times that they play there, now that signage or that digital inventory is going to be available to everybody out there to watch both live and on demand. It really just enhances the sponsorship package that they have to sell. The second way is any inventory that we sell, and it's mainly more on the site, not within the game, to more of a regional or national sponsor, they get a cut of that. So there's a revenue stream that comes back to the school by being a part of working with us.
So you started in Georgia, and you're expanding to, it sounds like, across the U.S.?
We are. We did start, our first state was here in Georgia, working with the Georgia High School Association. We did place an emphasis on expanding regionally here within the Southeast. And then we recently announced that we are merging with a company out of the Midwest. So between those two things, we currently work with 10 state associations, and that's an ever-growing number, but the current number is 10, with a concentration in the Southeast, a concentration in the Midwest, and then we have a little bit of a presence on the West Coast and the Mountain Time Zone as well.
Well, given that we have a lot of our listeners are involved with technology in one way, shape, or form, I think they'd be interested in learning a little bit more about how technology has played a role in your company, both digital and the new media, in terms of the day-to-day operation for PlayON Sports.
I'll talk about it in two ways, one kind of at a high level and then one more at more of a micro level. At a high level, what we do is we've got to bring the same production levels that viewers are accustomed to watching a game on ESPN or Fox Sports to high school sports, but at a fraction of the cost. While high school sports is a very growing trend, each individual game does not generate the level of audience that some of the bigger sports do. So we have to utilize technology in a lot of creative ways to be able to bring that same production level for a very, very low cost compared to what happens for television. So that at a macro level, technology sits at the core of everything we do, because if it wasn't for technology, if it was just humans, we'd never be able to recreate the same level of quality. On more of a day-to-day tactical level, what sits at the heart of our engine and makes us able to do this is we're a 100% digital company. So all of our video from day one as it comes in is fully digitized, and that allows us to be able to move it around and place it on the different platforms in a very efficient way, many times without having to involve the use of humans at all to transport or move that video or transcode it or move it around, et cetera. And that goes for our schools that we work with where they're doing their self-production. That's a self-service. They are able to determine what they want to produce, at what level they want to produce it, where they want it distributed, all that done without us having to be involved in those decisions. So when we say we're a digital media company, we do distribute a lot of content on the television, but at the core of it, all of the assets that we generate from day one are 100% digital.
So switching gears a little bit, I would see the major sports that we think of, football and basketball, as having an audience in terms of you being able to provide this service to all the high schools. But this sounds like it also lends itself accessibility to that next level of sports like lacrosse and wrestling and some of these other activities. I mean, are you looking to provide opportunity in a broad segment of what a high school would have in terms of their various sports?
For sure. There's a lot of hidden gems within high school sports, and you're correct. Football and basketball are the most popular and well-known and get the most coverage to date, and we certainly don't shy away from those sports. But when we work with the state association, we try to ensure 100% coverage of all the state championships. So not just football and basketball, but cross country and swimming and diving and wrestling. And as we've done this now for a couple of years, we've uncovered there are a couple of sports that consistently pop up, as I mentioned before, hidden gems: wrestling, swimming and diving, track and field. The sports where there's a lot of participants and there's a lot of interest, and that also present well on television, do quite well. And we encourage our schools to do the same thing, not to utilize this just to focus on football and basketball, but to shed some light and exposure on some of the other sports out there as well.
So how long has the company been in existence, and what's your plan if you're looking at the 5-year, let's say, forecast? Where would you like to be in 5 years?
Well, the company, as currently is constructed, started in December of 2008, so a little over a year and a half. Now, before that, this was a company and a technology that was developed inside of Turner Broadcasting, which is where I was, and several of the other management team members before. So all in total, it's been around about 5 or 6 years. Inside of Turner, it was very much focused on the collegiate space, and when we spun it out, that's when we changed direction and really decided to go after the high school space. So kind of depends how far you want to go back. 5 or 6 years if you count from the very beginning of when we started working on technology, and a year and a half, almost 2 years now in terms of an independent company.
And then
going forward,
going forward,
the same path as we've been going down. We're working with 10 states now. Who knows what the total? We know there's 50 states out there, so ideally we'd love to work with all 50 states in some capacity at some point. But the model that we have right now is working and working well, and we want to continue to add new clients while also continuing to add the services we offer to our existing clients.
So last question, you recently received some funding, so I think that's also points to the success of the company and the hopes for the company that people outside of your company have. So talk a little bit about the funding in terms of what that's going to do to help you to maybe ratchet it up to the next level in terms of pace of growth.
Yeah, you're correct. We did close our Series B, I guess it was a week or two ago. Really what this is just to allow us to grow faster. That when we started, we had 6 or 7 hardy individuals, and now we're bumping up north of 20. But there's just more opportunity that's out there, and it's becoming, I hate to call it predictable growth, because I don't think growth is ever predictable, especially in this economic climate. But we validated our business model. We know if we make certain investments what type of return we can expect on it. So it was a very good timing for us as a company, because we had gotten to the point where we really needed some additional capital to juice things up, and at the same time it was a very good fit for our investors as well, because they saw the progress we'd made, saw the potential opportunity that was ahead of us. So despite things being difficult out there, it is possible to raise money. It's still not easy, but it can be done if you've got the right combination.
Well, David, congratulations on PlayON Sports, and best of luck in the future. Thanks for joining me on Tech Talk today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.